First of all, Merry Christmas to all of you. Remember, St. Nicholas is watching, and we're hoping that he does not need a warrant, but we're hoping we can get the federal government to make sure they get a warrant. Mr. Chernowski, last time you were here, we discussed the concern with ERISA and the definitional expansion of electronic communication service provider. Is that concern still there? And if it is, how are we going to fix it?
Yeah, that concern is still very much there, unfortunately. As Ms. Goitein pointed out, it radically and drastically expanded the definition of what would be captured underneath an electronic service, communication service provider. And because that threat is still there, I think that there's an opportunity with this upcoming reauthorization discussion to go and rein that back in. Now, to their credit, in the Senate, Senator Mark Warner did try to go and get some fixes to that definition, but it was stripped out of the Intelligence Authorization Act process. So that problem is still there, and I hope that with this upcoming debate that we can get the fix that's so desperately needed.
Is there any one in particular that you would point to that you'd say, we got to have this? In terms of a fix?
Yeah, again, I think the most fundamental one is getting getting a warrant. Closing that backdoor search loophole is really, really integral. But this electronic communication service provider, I think, kind of jumps right up there with it because, again, it is just way too expansive. It goes and conscripts a whole host of businesses into the surveillance apparatus that had no intention of ever being in there. So much so that it was a rare instance where you even saw technology industry go and speak out against this particular definition of language. ITI had submitted a letter to Congress going and asking to go and fix that definitional issue. So yes, very important.
Mr. Tolman, how can we limit this data broker loophole without hurting intelligence?
You know, the fact that it's so secret and it's contained exclusively within those that present to the FISC those powers, and we're really talking about internal powers of the FBI, without being able to shed light on what they're doing and who they're contracting with, it's very difficult to stop its use. And it will continue to be a challenge unless we are putting, for example, third parties capable of reviewing what they're searching and who they're contracting with. If we prevent and put guardrails on the scope of that contracting, we might be able to make an impact on its abuse.
Mr. Chair, we've seen some political judges across the country really abusing their authority. Are there guardrails against this with FISA?
Well, the warrant requirement itself, I think, is going to help bring some accountability to the agencies. There's always a chance that a judge will grant a warrant that he or she shouldn't grant, and there's always a chance that a judge will deny a warrant that he or she shouldn't grant. But at least in the judiciary, there's an opportunity for appeal.
You know, my concern is, I mean, you see what Judge Boasberg has done, and he's served on the FISC. I mean, it's really of concern that he's going to abuse that authority.
Well, and no solution is perfect, but the mechanism that the framers of the Constitution put in place to deal with these kinds of issues is, I think, as perfect and as good a system as we've seen. There will be lapses, there will be mistakes, but there will be many fewer than we currently see, I think.
I think it was talked about earlier, but amicus briefs are allowed, correct, in the FISC?
I suppose they are technically allowed, but since the FISC operates in secret, nobody knows what the FISC is considering, so nobody really knows, unless they're told, nobody knows whether there's an opportunity to submit an amicus brief. So part of the amicus system is that the FISC itself would appoint an amicus and tell them, we have this proceeding dealing with this particular target. Can you give us your thoughts on it?
So I'm going to take it that there's some limited ability. Should it be expanded?
The amicus program, I believe, should be expanded. There are a lot of politically sensitive investigations that currently are not subject to the amicus provisions at all, and there are several politically sensitive kinds of investigations where the FISC should be effectively required to appoint an amicus to give it independent advice when it's considering a Title I warrant.
And once again, with the amicus, if that's allowed, what will that engender that will be helpful in this process, in your mind?
Well, two things. First of all, the amicus may actually find real problems with the government's case and be able to prevent an investigation or prevent surveillance that should not have gone forward. But at a minimum, the presence of an amicus is going to have a big deterrent effect on the FBI and the DOJ. In the Carter Page situation, for example, I'm convinced that if there had been an amicus in the room and in the proceeding, that Kleinsmith would never have lied, and that the other misdeeds that occurred in connection with Carter Page would likely not have occurred because they would have been afraid that the amicus would recognize them and point them out to the court.
May I respond on that question, sure, Mr. Chairman? One other thing that it would prevent is what happens currently, which is where there's a deficiency in a warrant, Title I warrant, the FISC judge will actually go back to DOJ and ask them to fix or provide additional information on a deficient warrant. An amicus system would prevent that.
Thank you for letting me exceed my time, Mr. Chairman.
You bet.